Hello and cheers to Friday. This is Friday Reads. If you are new here, welcome to Castle Lovestead. My name is Jessica and I am Queen of Castle Lovestead, nestled in the prairie realm of Booklandia. Today I'm sharing with you the books I've been reading over the past week. A big stack over here to go through with you. So, first is Winter Girls by Lori Halse Anderson. I finished this book in the past week and it was excellent. It was excellent. This book is about Leah, who is a teenage girl struggling with an eating disorder. She has just lost her best friend Cassie, who also struggled with an eating disorder. And by lost, I mean Cassie died. So it just basically chronicles Leah's experience with grief, her experience with battling anorexia, family dynamics. It's what you might call a slice of life book. But what makes this book so special is Lori Halse Anderson's writing. Her writing is lyrical, and she does this absolutely brilliant thingy where she uses different kinds of formatting to illustrate different parts of mental illness. Emma deals a lot with denial and thought checking and thought stopping. And Lori Halse Anderson illustrates this by crossing out, I don't know if you can see it, she crosses out the line that Leah is actually saying and then leaves in what Leah believes she should be thinking. So she uses that strike through as a way to illustrate denial. I thought that was brilliant. Here's a quote just to give you a feel for the writing voice. This is on page 3, so before we really even get into it. Here stands a girl clutching a knife. There's grease on the stove, blood in the air, and angry words piled in the corners. We are trained not to see it, to not see any of it. Someone just ripped off my eyelids. It's just so good. It's very dark. It's a very dark story, and if you are someone who struggles with eating disorders, I would not recommend this. It would be very, very, very triggering for someone struggling with an eating disorder. Back to some of the ways she uses formatting for illustrating mental illness or components of mental illness. So we've got the strike throughs. Another thing that she does is she uses sort of the format that you would use in a play. So she goes back and forth between regular dialogue with dialogue in quotation marks and dialogue where it says dad, colon, and then the dialogue, like you would in a play. And what the play format signifies, in my thinking, in my analysis of this work, is moments when Leah is disassociating. And instead of like being in the moment with her family or with whatever's happening, being in the moment, being there, she is kind of drifting off and watching it like a play unfold on a stage. She's disassociating from the situation. So those moments typically happen when Leah is having conversations with her parents. It also happens in moments where there are conversations around the death of Cassie. Leah disassociates. And instead of regular dialogue and regular formatting punctuation for dialogue, we see that play format come in because she is seeing life as a play instead of being an active part of it. And, there's a couple other things that she does here. I'm not going to share all of them with you because I'm not going to do your homework for you. But this is such a well done book. It's such brilliance in the way that she uses those different devices and forms of punctuation and formatting to illustrate different components of mental illness. I just thought it was so brilliant. So I gave this book 4 stars out of 5. It was my book of the month for the month of March. Next, I read the book Dirty Kisses by Kenya Wright. This is a mafia romance. I read it through Kindle Unlimited, and mafia romance is kind of my jam. I like it. I like that there's the romance aspect, and then the mafia is the pew 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 pew. It's fun. I like it. It's a fun genre. I like it better than any other romance genre that I've read. I do not like historical romance. But I can get down with some mafia romance. One of the things that I enjoyed about this book, I'm trying to find it in my notes here in my Kindle, is the main character talks about underground tunnels in New York City. So New York City is one of my favorite places on earth, but it does have like this underground tunnel system that is so dark and creepy, and it actually exists. And like so many books tend to write about them in different stories. One of the best books that addresses the underground tunnel systems is the book Reliquary by Lincoln Child and Douglas Preston. It's part of the Pendergrast series, but they talk about those tunnel systems extensively in that, and that there are these groups of people that live in the tunnel systems all their lives, called like mole people, or they have different names or whatever, but like there's a whole culture of people who live in New York City underground tunnels, and it just is so fascinating to me. And Kenya Wright talks about those tunnels in this book as well. So when people thought, oh, I'm sorry, this is page 49. When people thought of the New York City underground, the vast subway system, sewers, and water tunnels came to mind. Far lesser people knew about the obscure and lesser documented tunnels, often running from building to building and throughout Manhattan. She names some specific tunnels. The Farley Morgan Tunnel under 9th Avenue. I looked that up. It does exist. There really is a Farley Morgan Tunnel. And the main character says, regardless, this is page 50, I became obsessed with finding secret tunnels throughout New York, spending weeks reading through books in the library and then dragging Maxwell and Daryl to search them out. There's an intruder in the castle. Guard dogs keeping watch. There were the McCarran Pool tunnels in Brooklyn. McCarran was the borough's biggest pool. The tunnels had been built for behind-the-scenes passages for maintenance employees, boiler room access, etc. It was a huge network leading all over the place. We must have run through those for weeks. People wouldn't believe how many passageways had been built and hidden right under them. There was the East New York Freight Tunnel, more widely known among graffiti artists. Columbia University had an old steam tunnel system that dated back to when the campus was an insane asylum. There were even ones under Rockefeller Center. So cool. So that was probably one of my favorite parts of reading this book. Otherwise, it's a standard mafia romance. There's love, there's shootouts, the end. 3 stars out of 5. Okay, next I have picked up Ring Shout by P. DeJelly Clark, and I am not finished with this yet, but it is a very good little novella. There's so much to be learned from what's in here. Like, I've already had to look up so many different things in just the short amount of pages that I've read so far. So one of the first things that I looked up was the Black Rattlers, because Cordelia, one of the characters, is a veteran of World War I, and she was part of what was called the Black Rattlers. So I did look them up. They are an actual unit that fought in World War I, made up entirely of black soldiers, also sometimes called the Harlem Hellfighters. I'm not going to tell you more than that, because again, do your own homework. but that was something that I've learned about. I also learned about Stagecoach Mary. She was new to me. So Stagecoach Mary was the first Black woman to get a job with the American Postal Service doing one of their star routes, which I guess was like a route along a highway that could sometimes get kind of dangerous and rowdy. So she always carried a gun with her. Very interesting. The basis of this story is that the Ku Klux Klan is actually made up of real demons, and there's a group of women who are fighting the demons. It's the 1920s, and there is currently some bigger plot afoot among these demons where they are taking orders from some larger big bad guy. And it talks about the Birth of the Nation film and how the demons are utilizing that film to stir up hate in people, because all that they need to inhabit somebody's body is to get them just full of hatred, and then the demons can then easily take over a body. And so it's very interesting the way that is being portrayed. I am getting some major steampunk vibes from this. Nobody that I have seen talk about this has mentioned that yet, but one of the characters, Molly, she's a Native American scientist who is studying these dead body parts of the demons. After the women kill the demon, they bring the body back to Molly, and Molly like dissects it to try to learn about it from a scientific perspective. And she's always got like her goggles on and all of her science stuff. Like, that is so steampunky. I feel like so I don't know if anybody else has picked up on that, but I am pretty close to being done with this. I'm on page 117, and there is 180 pages in this book. So should be able to wrap this up this week. So far, I am enjoying it. I'm learning a lot from it. I think that he's done such a good job of packing a lot of important shit into a small book. Okay, and then lastly, I have picked up a couple of books that I started reading. I started reading volume 2 of the Promised Neverland series. And then I've also started Desperation by Stephen King. This is a chunky book. This book just gets right to it. Like, there's not a whole lot of lead up to the horror. Like, it is horror from page 1. But so far, really liking it. I'm only like 50 pages in. I also, from the library, picked up The Virgin Suicides by Jeffrey Eugenides. I read Jeffrey Eugenides' book Middlesex back in grad school. Absolutely loved it. Haven't read anything else by him, so I decided it was time to pick up this one. And then I also picked up The Echo Wife, which is a new book by Sarah Gailey. It is science fiction about a woman whose husband cheats on her with her clone. That sounds very interesting to me. So once I finish up Ring Shout and Promise Neverland, I will start one of these two. Probably this one. So that'll do it for my Friday reads. That's what I'm reading lately. That's what I'm thinking about lately. And I'm going to go enjoy the rest of my weekend. So until next time, make sure that you continue to read good books, drink good coffee, take care of yourselves and each other.